It's a mining transport. What would they be digging for out here?
There's gold in them asteroids. And to get it out, you're going to need one of the 5.5-ish ships we're talking about in today's video. I'm Joey from Radio Free Coruscant, and these are the best mining ships and vehicles in Star Wars. YG-4214. Mining vessels tend to be more on the unusual side, but the Corellian Engineering Corporation YG-4214 mining freighter was one of the least weird ones. This was essentially an ordinary CEC light freighter, but presumably with cargo holds meant for raw mineral storage rather than ordinary freight. What made it particularly interesting though, and worthy of inclusion on this list, was the leech vessel included with it. The YG-4214's docking tubes were located roughly in the middle of the ship like on most light freighters, but in place of a standard airlock on the left side, it had a recessed docking port for the leech vessel. This was a slow but highly maneuverable craft capable of burrowing into solid rock, or ship's hulls if that's more your speed. I'm not really sure how this is used in the mining process, but it seems to me that it would be good for scouting out locations with resources to mine, rather than doing the extraction itself. Send out a couple YG-4214s into an asteroid field or uncharted planet to probe the site for minerals, and then return later with one of the more capable ships on this list to mine them. The YG-4214 measured around 43.9 meters long by 26.8 meters wide and 6.9 meters tall by my estimation. It likely had a top speed of 850 kilometers per hour and a Class 2 hyperdrive. It was armed with 2 laser cannons and 2 dual laser cannon turrets, which could potentially have been used for mining, but were more likely for defending the mining sites from scavengers and pirates. The ship required only 1 pilot for normal operations, plus a second pilot to command the leech vessel, and could carry at least 5 or 6 passengers. I would guess it to have a cargo capacity of 100 tons of ore and 3 months of consumables as well. Last time I talked about the YG-4214, I gave it a price tag of 120,000 credits, but I think that's probably a bit too low for its size and the inclusion of the leech vessel. It was probably closer to the range of 150,000 new or 80,000 used. YM-2800. Next up is another CEC creation, and a much more unconventional one at that. I speak, of course, of the Corellian Engineering Corporation YM-2800 limpet ship, an oddly whimsical design that I am quite fond of. The limpet ship is most famous for its use as a boarding craft by the Rebel Alliance, but it was originally a mining vessel that operated by clamping onto an asteroid's surface with its 4 ATTE-like legs and drilling into it with a ventral laser cutter. In this way, it was basically a giant version of the YG-4214's leech vessel, just designed to work on its own rather than with a larger mothership. With this in mind, it presumably also had some kind of drill or other equipment that could be lowered into the hull for resource extraction, but we haven't gotten to see this in action if so. A particularly odd feature of the limpet ship is its starfighter-style cockpit, which is mounted on the end of an articulated arm that can lower it to ground level for boarding, or hold it up above the ship in flight and while mining for unknown reasons. I can't for the life of me figure out why they would feel the need to design it this way. It's not for visibility purposes, as the mining is done directly underneath the ship, but it must be for something specific that I just can't think of. Leave your best guess in the comments. The limpet ship measured around 39 meters long by 33 meters wide and 9 meters tall by my calculations, though it could potentially be a bit smaller or larger. That figure also excludes its adjustable cockpit and landing gear. The ship had a top atmospheric speed of 800 kilometers per hour and probably had a Class 3 hyperdrive. It was armed with a pair of front-mounted medium laser cannons and a ventral plasma beam cutter. The ship required a crew of 6 and could carry 6 passengers, though I don't know if that would be its standard complement for mining operations, or if that was only for Rebel boarding craft usage. It could also carry 125 tons of cargo and 2 months of consumables. Finally, it came in at a cost of 150,000 credits new, or 70,000 used. Miscellaneous ground vehicles. This entry is maybe a bit odd, but there were a couple of ground vehicles that I wanted to talk about, and I didn't want to waste 2 whole slots on them. Using a ground vehicle for mining may be a better idea than using a ship, as mining takes place in the ground, but you do have the trade-off of being stuck in a fairly small area. Still, it's worth looking into, especially with one of the 2 following vehicles. The first is the Corellian Mining Corporation Digger Crawler, better known as the Sand Crawler. Kind of baffling to me that even after almost 50 years we don't have a more formal name for these things, but that's okay, I guess. We don't actually know much about what a sand crawler's mining procedure looks like, but Star Wars Visions gives us a brief glimpse of one docked to a pair of drilling towers. Sand crawlers were really more for processing ore and scrap, and hauling it away for shipping rather than for directly mining it, so this was likely standard procedure in most places. The exact infrastructure the sand crawler would have been used with probably varied, but the principle still stands. Extract ore from the ground via your preferred method, and then send it into your sand crawler for smelting and storage. Miners looking for a sand crawler to enhance their operations will not have too hard a time finding a good deal on one. They were so cheap off the shelf, and so large and unwieldy, that most mining companies opted to just abandon them where they stood after an area's resources ran out, then attempt to load them onto a ship and take them to the next site. Many of these were taken over by Jawas for use as mobile junkyards and cities, but there are surely thousands of them out there available for purchase or salvaging that haven't been claimed. Therefore, if you have a way to move one, or think you have a way to find some resources a sandcrawler's original owner missed, you should be able to get one for dirt cheap, if not entirely free. And the best part is, the sandcrawler was so rugged and reliable that even an abandoned one plucked from the Baraskas of Tatooine and other mining planets would likely fire right up and work without needing a major overhaul. Most sandcrawlers could operate for decades without any more than basic maintenance. The sandcrawler measured 40 meters long by 15 meters wide and 20 meters tall. They could reach a blistering maximum speed of 30 kilometers per hour, or 18.6 miles per hour. Hold on to your hat. It was unarmed, but equipped with 2 salvage loading cranes, a magnet crane, an extendable repulsor lift tube for cargo handling, and electrostatic repellers to keep it relatively free of dust, sand, and other debris. The vehicle required a crew of 50 miners, engineers, and technicians, and could carry 30 passengers. At least for human-sized species. Jawas tended to pack in twice as many of each in their sandcrawlers. The sandcrawler's original cargo capacity, in terms of raw ore or processed material, is unknown, but Jawa droid salesmen were known to carry a load of 1,500 droids, plus various other merchandise aboard theirs. Off the shelf, a sandcrawler was valued at 50,000 credits, but could be found for much less used. The other ground vehicle I wanted to mention is the Mining Guild Ore Crawler, colloquially known as the World Devastator. Like the Imperial superweapons of the same name, these repulsor craft would hover a few meters above a planet's surface, using an incredibly powerful tractor beam to rip resources straight from the ground into the molecular furnace in the vehicle's heart for smelting. Unlike the Imperial World Devastators, though, the Ore Crawler was only 100 meters long or so, and not capable of autonomously processing the ingested materials into starfighters, droids, or the other various things the Devastators manufactured. In fact, Ore Crawlers weren't autonomous at all, requiring a minimum organic crew of around 5, and a recommended crew likely in the dozens. These vehicles and their strip mining method are one of the most environmentally destructive mining processes in the galaxy, save for the superweapon version seen on the actual world Devastators. I cannot in good faith recommend any miner use one of these machines, and more importantly, we don't really know enough about it to warrant an entry all for itself, but it's interesting enough to tack it on to the end of the Sandcrawler segment. Y-8 Mining Vessel. Going back to space, our next ship is the Corellian Engineering Corporation Y-8 Mining Vessel. Apparently, CEC had somewhat of a monopoly on the mining industry. This was a radically different design from other CEC ships, though, featuring a large boxy body atop a tall vertical fin and topped itself by a small command bridge with enormous windows for surveying a mining site. It also had storage for 3 external cargo containers at the rear to make unloading its cargo a breeze. The ship was designed to be the pinnacle of asteroid mining technology, and Y-8s were highly sought after by mining companies. What actually made them so special isn't super clear, as there is very little information on them, which seems to be a theme among all these mining ships. What we do know is that they were equipped with an array of mining lasers to cut up asteroids in space, and a tractor beam turret to haul the extracted materials into the cargo hold. I would guess they were also highly maneuverable, and able to work in fairly dense asteroid fields despite their large size due to their unusual layout. The Y-8 measured 80 meters long by 30 meters wide and 140 meters tall. Its atmospheric speed and hyperdrive rating were unknown, but probably somewhere around 750 kilometers per hour and a Class 2 or 3. The ship was unarmed with at least 2 mining lasers and a tractor beam turret, though it was not uncommon to see mercenaries using Y-8s with the mining beams replaced with laser cannons instead. The ship required a crew of 7, a pilot, 2 ops station personnel, and 4 gunners. It could be operated by as few as just 2 crew, and could carry 4 passengers. I would guess it to carry a month of consumables, and 600 to 1,000 tons of cargo as well, though that is based on nothing but vibes. And the same is true of its price, which I would suspect to be something in the ballpark of 1 million credits new, or 500,000 used. ICM. And finally, we'll end it off on a non-CEC ship, the Huplapasa Shipwrights Collective ICM-092792 Imperial Construction Module. This was a space station rather than a ship, but still extremely useful. As far as I am aware, these were not available for sale to the general public, but the Empire abandoned dozens of them in orbit of Geonosis after the Death Star's construction was moved to Scarif. They were also used in numerous other Imperial construction and mining projects across the galaxy, and many of them were probably inherited or captured by planetary governments after the Empire's fall, so it probably wouldn't have been too hard to get your hands on a used one. The ICM was a truly all-in-one industrial station, with the ability to haul in asteroids for mining, process the raw ores into usable materials, and construct various orbital projects. It even contained an onboard office complex for project management. Putting a captured ICM to work in your mining operation would be a colossal undertaking worthy of only a genuine motherlode of resources, but it would be capable of processing quantities of material that would take decades for the other ships and vehicles on this list to mine, and would be well worth the effort for the right situation. The ICM measured 828 meters in diameter by about 1,250 meters tall. It had a top speed of 100 kilometers per hour and no hyperdrive, so if you plan to remove one from where you found it, you will need some kind of hyperspace towing plan for it. It was armed with several point defense laser cannons, and it had a hangar that could support an optional squadron of TIE fighters, a few LAAT LE patrol gunships for both defense and utility needs, and even a pair of ATDP walkers to function as extra mobile turrets. Everything else about the ship was unknown, but I would guess it to require at least 800 crew and carry 500 to 1,000 passengers, 6 months of consumables, and 50,000 tons of cargo. Its price was probably something on the order of 50 million credits new, but salvaged ICM stations would likely run around 20 million on the second-hand market, possibly even less due to the inconvenience of transporting them. And those are 5 of the best mining ships and vehicles in the galaxy. Please let me know in the comments which of these was your favorite and what you'd mine for with it. Let me know what other ships you'd prefer to use instead as well, and subscribe so you don't miss a video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week. RFC, out.